Want to bring in the Viceroy, Mike Davis. So I wanted to start. I wanted to start with Arctic frost, and what your old boss Grassley dropped the bomb on Lisa Monaco, Chris Wray, and Merrick Garland. But I've got to ask you about that cold open, Mike. The Viceroy, total complete meltdown from everything. We're trying to sort out these elections. To you've got a team going through the 2020 elections. Also, people are trying to weed out the weaponization of government. MSNBC and CNN are kind of vapor locked. They have very little time. President's leaving today for an extended trip to Asia. We're going to have Thayer and Captain Fennell, all of us on, talk about that, about the high stakes with the Chinese Communist Party and Asia as the war in Ukraine heats up, as it looks like we're getting ready for kinetic activity in Venezuela. Marco Rubio's in Israel. Everything geopolitically is going on, but the mainstream media, particularly MSNBC, is vapor locked over kind of the plan of the Viceroy. What's going on? What are they complaining about, sir?
Well, I would say this to these Democrats: if the 2020 election was so clean, why are they so scared to show their work? Why are they freaking out about opening up the hood and taking a look at the 2020 election? And we all know the answer. It was clearly rigged and stolen. They used COVID as an excuse to illegally, unconstitutionally mass mail ballots out to old voter list, including college students who move, and these ballots pile up at these apartment complexes. And how do you prevent a fraudulent mail ballot? You look at signature verification, but somehow COVID changed our signature, and they turned signature verification down to meaningless. And so, of course, they stole the election. They know it. They know they're going to get caught. It's one of the biggest scandals in American history that you can rig and steal an election. They also know that they're getting caught on this lawfare, this criminal conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. My old boss, Chuck Grassley, found a pretty damning memo from former FBI Director Chris Wray to Attorney General Merrick Garland through Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, who's the worst actor of them all, Lisa Monaco. But this memo authorized Arctic frost. And let's just explain to your listeners and viewers what Arctic frost is. Democrats, the Biden administration, used President Trump's challenge of the 2020 election as a predicate to open up a crime. And again, I keep saying this on your show, it is not a crime to object to a presidential election. It's only a crime to object to a presidential election in a third world Marxist hellhole. If it were a crime to object to a presidential election, you would see Democrats in prison for objecting to Republican wins and Democrat losses in 1968, 2000, 2004, and 2016. And so there's clearly not a crime here, but what the Biden Justice Department did was use Arctic frost to spy on and try to imprison President Trump, his top aides, his allies, and even his allies in the United States Senate. And the fact that they spied on 9 U.S. senators, it finally got the Senate's attention after 4 years.
Mike Davis, and people should know the Viceroy is I think I would say a sage and major advisor to the entire administration. So you have, I just want the audience to take away from this morning, there are multiple fronts in which major action is taking, from federal grand juries to people working on tiger teams or task force inside the government about taking down the deep state or de-weaponizing the deep state, to Heather Honey and others now coming in to look at the mechanics of the elections, and people starting to actually get down and start to look at adjudicating the 2020 election. On all that, one of the most explosive was yesterday. I just want to go back and make sure everybody understands the scale of this, because it took a whistleblower at the FBI. They had buried this so deep that Kash Patel, the director, and Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, could not find this. I want everybody to embrace that. could not find this. It took a whistleblower to come forward about the senators, about the 9 senators basically being wiretapped. Let's call it what it is, wiretapped by Biden's regime. I want to say how big was this memo? Now that they've unearthed this memo, kind of setting up Arctic frost. How big is this? How's it tied to the senators? And where do you think this goes? Grassley, people got to remember, Grassley ain't a lawyer. He's an Iowa farmer. He's tough as boot leather, and he's like a dog with a bone against these investigations. Mike Davis, the Viceroy, your thoughts?
I would say this is the biggest mistake that these lawfare Democrats made. You didn't hear senators complain too much when the Biden Justice Department, the Obama Justice Department, spied on presidential candidate Donald Trump, spied on him when he was the president of the United States, indicted him, went after his top aides like you and Peter Navarro and Jeff Clark and so many others. It wasn't until the lawfare Democrats went after these U.S. senators that they really got into hot water here. And I say this, presidents come and go, senators last for decades, right? And so this was a huge tactical mistake by these lawfare Democrats. It finally got the senators' attention. You're hearing senators who I didn't hear say very much about this unprecedented Republicaning lawfare over the last 8 years. They're suddenly very interested and very outraged. And so a big mistake by these lawfare Democrats, Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, Chris Wray, Jack Smith, Jay Bratt, so many of these bad actors. I would also take note of a new court order I think people missed down in the Southern District of Florida, where the new Trump U.S. attorney in Miami, Jason Redding Quinones, one of my good friends, opened up a special grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida, and that's going to get impaneled sometime in early January. So I would watch out for what's happening down in the Southern District of Florida. We've been calling for an investigation under 18 U.S.C. Section 241, conspiracy against rights, for over 3 years on this show, Steve Bannon, since the Mar-a-Lago raid, and maybe, just maybe, that's going to happen.
Mike, the other thing they're going crazy about is this effort to go after the deep state and start to take apart the weaponization and using teams put together from inside the government. I mean, obviously, it would come from inside the government. What is their complaint? I don't understand the grounds of their complaint on this. To look at the deep state and the deep state actors, they're going absolutely crazy on this topic. Your thoughts?
Yeah, think about it. If this were a corporation, and you have the executives of the corporation going bonkers because the board of directors of the corporation wants to do an audit of the books, and the executives are going crazy. You can't do it on the books, and you have to ask, why not? Why can't you make these government officials show their work on the 2020 election? Why can't you make these government officials show their work on what they did to investigate their political enemies, going back to the Russian collusion hoax? If they've done nothing wrong, they shouldn't be concerned about showing their work. But they're freaking out, so maybe that's a good indication that Trump and his team are over the target, and they've actually done something very bad with the 2020 election. These Democrat operatives, maybe they've done something very bad with this lawfare against President Trump, his top aides, his allies, his supporters on January 6th, parents, Christians. Maybe they know they're going to get caught, and that's why they're freaking out. Before
I let you go, Pam Bondi gave a great answer yesterday when they had the task force kind of up there about doing this. And they asked Pam about grand jury, and she says, look, I can't talk about the grand juries. But there's a lot of grand juries going on, and I think Pam Bondi's response is the absolutely correct response. But before I let you go, Viceroy, just give me 60 seconds on Lisa Monaco and why Lisa Monaco, when all is said and done, Lisa Monaco's name is going to be emblazoned in infamy in American history, sir.
Yeah, she was the deputy Attorney General under Joe Biden. She was the person who ran the day-to-day of the Biden Justice Department. Merrick Garland was this aloof former judge who was kind of a figurehead of the Justice Department. He was still a bad actor, but it was really Lisa Monaco as the DAG, the Deputy Attorney General who ran the day-to-day of this lawfare. She was very close to Obama. She was an Obama plant, and she's not going to look good when these investigations conclude. And I just want to remind the War Room posse, if we did not have Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino and Harmeet Dillon as the head of the Civil Rights Division and Jason Redding Quinones as the U.S. Attorney in Miami and Judge Jeanine Pirro in D.C., and Tulsi Gabbard, if we didn't have these bold and fearless Devin Nunes, who's running Trump's intel board, if we didn't have these bold and fearless picks in this second term, none of this would have come out. We saw in the first term with the people like Bill Barr, who covered up these biggest scandals in American history, refused to investigate the election, refused to look at Russian collusion hoax. We have bold and fearless leaders in President Trump's second term. And they are absolutely going to get to the bottom of this, and they're absolutely going to bring accountability. As I've said for the last 3 years on your show, and I'm going to make damn sure that happens in the 4 years of the second Trump term, we have to have accountability for what happened, so this never happens again. These are republic-ending tactics. When you steal elections, you rig and steal elections, and then you try to throw your political enemies in prison for non-crimes, you're going to destroy our country. And so there has to be the most severe legal, political, and financial consequences. I have not been trolling about this for the last 3 years. I am deadly serious about this. I'm going to make damn sure these lawfare Democrats go to prison.
I think it's just dawned on these folks in the last week that we are dead serious, and this is maybe the highest priority. Mike Davis, Article 3, your social media and Article 3, where do people go?
Article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Follow us on social media. Donate, but only what you can afford. But as everyone knows, the War Room Posse's superpower is action, action, action. And thank you, Steve, and thank you to your War Room Posse.